struggled a bit with this book. It's a beautiful book, but I didn't find myself inspired in particular. So I wrote an okay-ish song, and I scrapped the whole thing because I didn't want to be Chris Mason, the guy who writes okay-ish songs. The idea was pretty sound, though, and it was kind of more or less about the crickets. Also, a little bit about Alalay was in there, too, so we'll start off with that part. Originally, I thought the whole crickets as the meaning of life, finding your own meaning of life, whatever that may be, was a cool idea. And then I thought, well, what does everybody else in the world have to say about crickets? Surely nobody else was quite so inspired as Dax was. I would imagine that Dax went rather out of their way to learn about crickets, which they heard of at one point or another, given that Dax grew up in a city where there weren't any crickets. So how did they find this information? They clearly went and looked it up. What did the rest of us do? Probably what happened was we were all sitting around a campfire and some old person said, oh man, it would be so cool if there were crickets. And a young kid said, oh, what's a cricket? Oh, what's chirping sound like? I've never heard that before. Well, then some years go by and they tell their friends about that. And shortly enough, after time goes on, we have copies of copies, stories told about stories, and eventually people are talking about crickets like they know what they're talking about, but in fact, they've changed so much, no one actually has any idea what a cricket is. That's when a bard like me comes along and fills in some of the blanks. And this is my campfire song where we, the devotees of Alalay, have all been sitting around drinking a little bit, talking a little bit about what the crickets probably were like, even though none of us really knows, and I filled in a few of the details for us. And this is going to be the story of why we don't have any crickets. Who were the crickets and what are chirps? Were they really so big that they could eat your dog? What kind of menace were they? We'll talk about all that as we move forward here. Excuse me. Let's see if I can still do this. One beer and I'm already feeling cotton mouth. So, also I really like the religious stuff too, so I'm going to begin with my contribution to her religious canon, which is our invocation of Alalay at the beginning of the story. So please join me, if you would, with a deep breath or two to cleanse our palates. Charm. Hold. Inspire. It only gets weirder from here. Alright, so like I said, this is audience participation. I imagine you guys all shaking along with my beat, but if you find something that you want to shake that's even more exciting, that's okay. You do you. We're all searching for our own crickets this time. Ooh, this ought to be fun. We're right in the target zone here. I hope that'll be fine. It's not a leaky instrument, it's just a loud instrument, that's all. Your soul. And what do they say? Do you know what crickets say? burnt down, and now they hide out in the forest and out in the woods, away from us, just like they should. Story is all told. The crickets, even though grown, but the robots have to wash their skin because they still have to deal with them.